I see him. Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order for November 21 for the Oxnard City Council to order. Madam Clerk, roll call and posting of the agenda.
Councilmember Charan,
Here.
Councilmember Perello,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Here.
Councilmember Valenzuela Zavala,
Present.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Here.
We have a quorum, and the agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall Bulletin Board on November 8, 2023, and Councilmember Madrigal is absent. Councilwoman Basua will be joining us later.
Okay, so thank you so much. Then our next item then is public comments not on the agenda for, public comments on the closed session items. Any speakers for that?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, so we have item C, closed session, and we'll go to our city attorney, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would like to just point out that Councilmember Valenzuela Zavala is attending remotely pursuant to the Just Cause exemption under AB 2449 to the Brown Act. And in this instance, I believe the council member is attending remotely because of a medical issue that does not need to be disclosed.
Yeah, and thank you. And also, Councilor Madrigal had a personal business today, so.
Okay.
Work, okay, thank you.
All right. The City Council will recess to a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1, to confer with its attorneys. The matters being discussed are City of Camden et al. Versus 3M Company and City of Camden et al. Versus E.I. DuPont, Demure and Company et al.
Okay, thank you so much. And so then we're going to closed session. We'll be back for item D, appointment items at 5:30.
Hi, Bert.
Okay. Good evening. We're back from closed session, and Mr. City Attorney, any announcements out of closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no actions to report out of closed session this evening.
Thank you. So our next item is an appointment item in the City Manager Department, and the subject is Ventura County Civic Alliance State of the Region. A recommendation, the City Council receive the State of the Region report on the Ventura Civic Alliance, and we have Mr. David Marin.
Excuse me,
Dave?
Mayor Zaragoza, please let the record show that Councilwoman Basua joined the meeting at 5:09 p.m.
Thank you so much. Dave?
Thank you. Good evening, council, staff, members of the audience. I'm David Marin with the Ventura County Civic Alliance, and I'm going to limit my speech to 7:30. Is that about how late I get to go? Okay. All right.
How about
so
closer to after 6 or whatever?
try to get through this. So this report is distributed for free out in the community, and we're grateful to our sponsors who help us do that, over 20 sponsors. Just a couple of our large ones, the Ventura County Community Foundation, the Ventura County Community College District are our title sponsors, and domain sponsors, Era Energy, AT&T, Channel Islands University, Limonera, the Port of Wainimi, and also the County of Ventura. So we're very grateful because they're the ones who allow this to be produced. So I'm going to cover a lot of slides here. This one, and I believe you're all very familiar with this from my earlier presentations. Every 2 years we produce this. For those in the audience, this report is also available online at civicalliance.org. You can download it. This first chart is key statistics. It shows information regarding the aging and population in Ventura County. And I do want to just sort of highlight up here, the median age in Ventura County has gone from 34 about 20 years ago to 38.7, but every report, it just keeps going up. We are becoming older and older. In the report, we also break out each of the cities, how many of the what percentage of the population is under 18 and over 65. Sort of gives you an idea of the older cities and the younger ones. Agriculture, just always like to highlight some of the top crops. Strawberries, avocados had a big growth in 2022 from 2021. Avocados sort of go up and down. But you can see we produced almost $2 billion worth of crops. These are just the top 10. And we export around the world. Agriculture is about 4% of the Ventura County economy. Community engagement. I want to show this slide. It's about public libraries. And this one is important to understand that it's about spending. It's not the revenue that the libraries get. It's what they spend. Many of the libraries in Ventura County spend much more than Oxnard. Oxnard comes in on the low end. And I suspect much of that is because they have their own foundations or fundraising groups or donations to them that maybe Oxnard doesn't. Certainly could be something maybe to look at. Oxnard maybe be able to get nonprofit money or others to help boost the spending of our local libraries. You're all elected. Many of you have had to endure me being your moderator for your League of Women Voters forums. This is showing the population or the percentage of Democrat in blue, red is Republican, and no party preference is in green. So over the years, Oxnard and the rest of the county have trended bluer and bluer. Really, it's been the Republicans that have lost the percentage over those years, and that's because of the growth in no party preference. Oxnard has the highest percentage of Democrats in Ventura County. Simi Valley has the highest percentage of Republicans. This chart's a little hard to look at all this data, but I want to emphasize just how important the nonprofit community is in Ventura County. It's a substantial amount of money, about close to 2 billion or 1 billion as far as revenue that comes into our nonprofits. You can see at the bottom that the Ventura County, and we have about a $3,400 per person revenue. So in a city of 200,000, that's about 600 million. Maybe it's a little less because Oxnard doesn't have the largest nonprofits. But when you think about it, some people might overlook, you have the St. John's Foundation is a large one here. Food Share has a very high amount of revenue, and there's many others. So it's an important part of the economy. So I'd like to spend a little time talking about the jobs and the wages in Ventura County. The first one here is goods producing. Think of goods as manufacturing, construction, agriculture, those types of jobs. Some of them actually pay fairly well. The manufacturing pays close to 95,000, I think that is up there. Let's see, so, well, no, manufacturing is averaging around 77,000. You can see, though, that the amount of jobs in those industries has pretty much been flatlined on the top. So construction, slight growth. Manufacturing, we haven't made up for what we've lost over the years. And this number here is important. 2007, we had 81,000 jobs in manufacturing in Ventura County. And just last year, 2022, we're down to 7,000. So we are losing our jobs in these high-paying areas. Where we're growing jobs is in the service providing areas. And some of those are nice entry-level jobs. Somebody gets a job in hospitality, but it certainly doesn't pay well. We've had a lot of growth since the economic recession as far as in the government jobs. When you look at those government jobs, think mainly school teachers. That's one of the highest sectors for that. But we have financial aid, the financial sector, the information technology sector has actually declined in Ventura County. And so we really need the balance. And of course, you all know that. You all have your economic development people in each of the cities going after trying to attract the right jobs. And I think efforts by Haas Automation and others to try and promote manufacturing hopefully will help. But this comes back to educating the kids, getting out of the high school, going through Oxnard College, and having them prepared to be the skilled workers we need in the modern workforce. I know I'm preaching to the choir. So, gross county product, we've just basically been flatlining in Ventura County. This is inflation adjusted. So you can see that going back to about 2007 was our peak, a little over $68 billion in Ventura County. We hovered in the 58 billion or the 50s for much of the last decade, slight increase recently. So it's really a county-wide issue, but how can we attract those kind of high-paying jobs? Taxable sales, this year we broke it out, so we showed the actual taxable sales per city. Oxnard comes in just a little under 21,000 here. So about even with the other cities. Obviously, Oxnard has the highest amount of taxable sales. They're the largest city. But on a per capita basis, probably towards the top. Thousand Oaks is a little higher, Ventura's higher, Camarillo a little higher. And it says transit, but it's transient occupancy tax, of course. And Oxnard holding its own with the other western cities. You're part of the, I forget the name, but that trade association for promoting tourism on the west end of the county. I've confirmed the number with Ojai. I mean, that must be the Ojai Valley Inn and a few other things that have such a high number there.
That's pretty high.
Yes, it is. And I wouldn't be surprised, I'm sure, as all you know, sometimes these numbers are adjusted. Cities take the June, it goes into July, or July didn't get reported. And so things get moved around as people try to report everything. But overall, the trends for most of the West.
Dave, Councilman Tron has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And forgive my lack of or low level of knowledge on this. When we look at the TOT tax here, does this include short-term rentals, or does that depend on the jurisdiction if they tax that?
It's what's reported by the cities. So I believe the cities do collect.
It is?
An area.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so I would imagine Ojai, not, again, low level of knowledge on how Ojai has it structured, but I'd imagine they probably have a significant number of short-term rentals out there that may contribute to this as well, but that's significant for them. Good for them.
Right. The average room rate at the Ojai Valley Inn could be $400, $500, $600 a night. You know, so they bring in a lot of big things, and we always see like articles in the New York Times saying, "Oh, Ojai is the place to visit."
Even in television, they say you're heading to Santa Barbara, Ohio.
Exactly. So I mean, great for them. We'll see how it stays. It may just have been a little bit of a rebound from people who were anxious to get back out of the house after the pandemic.
Thank you.
Bert,
Mr. Mayor, if we can, I didn't know I could interrupt, but go back to 41. It has to do with Ventura County taxable sales by cities in million, and we had Oxnard as the highest, but there was mention that Thousand Oaks, Ventura, and Camarillo beat us per individual?
Per capita, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it because they buy higher quality stuff, or they spend more? How would you tell somebody who should know better who doesn't?
I don't think it's the quality necessarily. Certainly Thousand Oaks has the mall, which is a huge generator, and they have the auto mall. Now, Oxnard has a large auto area as well, but I think the mall could be a big magnet for them to pull people. I think it's actually impressive that you're as close as you are to Camarillo, considering how many out-of-area people come to the Camarillo outlet malls.
Does the collection help us out? The collection?
I would imagine it does. That's a destination. So, I mean, it all gets back to promoting those kind of sales tax dollars.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to make a comment. You mentioned we all are aware of going from high school to community college. I hope you're aware of what we're trying to do to get Oxnard more credit and more funding from the community college district. Just a comment. Thank you.
Right. And then I was at a meeting with the city manager as well, and I fully agree that we need more young people to understand they can go there. And it's also an interest of mine to promote community colleges.
Thank you.
So, yes.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Dave.
In education, this gets back to, I was talking about the aging of Ventura County. Well, here you see the declining enrollment. This is K-12, I'm sorry, K-8 is the top line. And over the years, we've gone from 97,000 down to about 82, and it's projected to go even lower. And then the high school years, sort of not the steepness, but it'll catch up. We're sort of waiting for those young people to come into the high schools. So number one, you probably won't see another high school built in Ventura County for a long time. This is across the board in Ventura County, and also some districts like Conejo, Ventura Unified, significant declines. What does that look like in Oxnard? Here is your three largest school districts. Oxnard Elementary, the top row is 2019. The purple, the blue is 2022. You can see that Oxnard L has gone from 15.7 to about 14.1, almost a 10% decrease. The high school district has sort of held its own, and even Rio has seen a decline. So this is just all manifestation of the reduced birth rate.
And Dave, excuse me, and Ojai is losing quite a bit.
Ojai's losing, Conejo Valley is lost, Simi Valley is losing. Santa Paula has grown. They've had some growth over there. And it gets back to who's got the younger population as well. But I'll talk about it a little more later, but it's how hard it is to have families.
One question. Do we track the increase in population at private schools?
No, this is public schools only. Data comes from the California Department of Education.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it does include charters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good news, I mean, as far as graduation rates, we're doing pretty well. Ventura County overall, about 94% or about 88% graduation, which is higher than in the past. And dropout rate is about 6%. So good news there. This is an important chart I'd like to share everywhere because it shows the value of education. You start off and you only have a high school degree. As a male, you could think about making an average of $37,000 a year. But go on and get your bachelor's degree, actually double what you would get, and that's for your lifetime. So year by year, think of how much extra money you would make over your lifetime with that advanced degree. And of course, many of the jobs in our manufacturing and other places require much more skills, community college, certificates. Unfortunately, we still see the divide between male and female trying to catch up, but it is the same trajectory as that for women as well. If they can get those higher degrees, go on and be more successful. So I'd like to say if your child or grandchild is wondering, should I get student loans and go to college? If they're motivated, it's a worthwhile investment because it'll pay off over their lifetime. In land use, you all follow this, but we see the housing permits continue to be pretty average, but nowhere near the growth we had back 15, 20 years ago. Probably insufficient number of permits. We probably should be running around 1,800 to 2,000 countywide. I included this one just to show home ownership. So the blue is people that own their home, green are renters. And so Oxnard is about 54% have owned their home. And we really see this as an east-west county divide. The West County, Port Hueneme also very low. And when you go over the grade, Thousand Oaks, much higher home ownership, like Westlake and other places. Mm-hmm. A lot of additional information in this report. Everybody knows about high housing prices. The green line is inflation adjusted. And so actually our housing prices now are a little less inflation adjusted than they were in 2007. But non-inflation adjusted is the blue line, and it's an incredible 920,000 for the average home. So yes, how does a young person graduate from Channel Islands, get a job, let's say with the city, but be able to start a family and buy a house? It's almost inconceivable. It's so challenging. Mm-hmm. Here's the prices by home. I won't break it out, but Oxnard, you can see about average, so 700,000, I believe. So it's a good place to start a family, that's for sure. Apartment rents are another issue. Apartment rents are really driven by vacancy rates, right? So if the landlords are in the driver's seat like they are in Ventura County, where you can see that the vacancy rate is less than 3%, they can really charge whatever they want. And the rates in Ventura County are an average of $2,700. Oxnard is around $2,400 for a 2-bedroom. And when we think about what landlords can do, it's not just that they can raise the rent. They can say, we need to run your background check. You have to give us a full month's deposit. We can't see any blemishes. We want to look at your social media. They are really in the driver's seat. Natural resources, a lot of good news here. We've created a lot of solar panels in Ventura County. We now have about the equivalent of a small power generation place, 239 megawatts at the end of 2022. So that's an incredible, great thing for our community. And when you look at the amount of oil and gas, oil is black and gas, natural gas is in orange. You can see the long-term decline in how much we produce in this county. Obviously, it's driven by the price of oil. If oil goes up back over $110 a gallon, $110 a barrel, I'm sure we'll see a little bit of an increase. But the amount of jobs in the oil industry, the amount that we pump is much less than it used to be. Landfill is in here. I'll start moving along because I can see we're going to run out of time. Great news for Oxnard. This is the average water use per day per person. And Oxnard comes in first in the county as far as only 51 gallons per person per day. Thousand Oaks, Westlake, those areas with much larger lots, you're going to always see more water usage. Public health, I do want to talk about this. This is the birth rate. This is a new chart that we added to talk about how we're getting older. And so you can see at 2000, we had an average of 10.5 births per 1,000 residents, which is an enormous decline from our peak, which was around 1991. Now, California and the nation has also seen a decline, but nothing like Ventura counties. We've declined almost 50%. And when you look at just the actual total number, in 1970, we had 7,300 births. We had about 11,000 in 1985, and now we're down 8,700. And we didn't have the same population back then. We had a smaller population having more babies. So I just want to take advantage of my moment here to say, I encourage you to think outside the box about policies. Are there policies you can do for your own staff to make it easier for them to have families? Are there policies you can do to help promote childcare? You know, the availability of childcare makes a big difference. It is easier now for families because 3 and 4-year-olds can now start going into the transitional kindergarten programs. So it doesn't take as much. But I do think this is an important thing for Oxnard and the other communities. Otherwise, we're all going to be old and not have anyone young to take care of us. Opioid deaths, this is fentanyl, very high numbers. It's just skyrocketed. COVID-19 deaths, Oxnard had the highest rate per 100,000. This is cumulative through October of 2023. So I won't speculate to the reason, but 261 people passed away per 100,000 residents. Thousand Oaks, a little better. I mean, maybe it's vaccinations, maybe it's access to healthcare, maybe it's density. Oxnard is one of the densest cities. So having that high number of people in a family could lead to more of the COVID. Public safety, Ventura County is very safe. We are the safest of the 15 largest counties in California. This breaks it out by city. Oxnard is near the top, but certainly not the top on the violent crime. That recognition belongs to Ventura. Property crime, but
Dave, we have a Councilman.
okay,
Turan.
sorry.
Oh, no, finish this slide, and then I just have a quick question
Okay,
about it.
Oxnard
Thanks.
has been declining very nicely there, so long-term, that's looking good.
Oh, so on the slide there, if you wouldn't mind just going back.
Violent or property?
The violent crime, please. All right, thank you. So I think scale for the bar charts are important for folks too. Looking at, when we looked at property crime, we're up in dozens of numbers. And here for Ventura County and for Oxnard and Ventura, looking at 3.7 per 1,000 population. And so when Mr. Marin says that, Ventura County is one of the safest, or is the safest counties of the 15 large counties, it's important to see, even though those are elevated looking bars, if they were scaled to 100, they would be minuscule in that. So know that these are scaled so that they're easier to see the difference between the cities, I'm assuming. Know that these violent crime rates are still significantly lower than you would find in other areas. Is that correct?
You're absolutely correct.
The
In
size of the
fact,
city too, yeah.
these numbers are much lower than they used to be in our area and far lower than you would see in other parts of Southern California where the numbers are much higher. So Oxnard, Ventura, it's all a very safe area. It doesn't feel that way when your house gets broken into, but by and large, our police departments, our sheriff department are doing a great job. And I would compliment our district attorney as well. It is a very safe place to live.
Thank you. And I'll just close by saying that, and I know our police chief has mentioned this a few times in his updates, when it comes to violent crime, I know there's a perception around what takes place and how often it takes place, but the data doesn't support that perception. And not only that, people are far more likely to be victimized in a violent crime by somebody they know versus a random person. So just throwing that back out there as well. So thank you. Thank you for the minute there.
And that's particularly true with domestic violence. Not sure where the
Doesn't want to work anymore. I think Tehran probably broke it, Where's Diego? There we go.
All right, social services. Next slide. Food share, huge amount of food given out. Oxnard, of course, largest city, 8 million pounds. It's about 1.25 pounds equals a meal. So during the pandemic, huge amount, and this gets back to where nonprofit really served. And there's other providers as well. Next slide. Homelessness, you are all following this. Numbers are going up in Ventura County. Next slide. By city, Oxnard and Ventura, of course, West End, high numbers. Clicker's not, okay. Student homelessness, broke it out here by cities. It's probably surprising just how much student homelessness. It is calculated completely differently. It is just basically, has a student during the year needed to sleep at a friend's house or on a couch or just had insecure as far as their housing. Whereas homelessness for adults is measured by 1 day a year going out and doing the survey. The numbers have jumped. One speculation, I have no empirical data, is that because after the pandemic, rents were allowed to start going up again, that people had to lose their homes because they couldn't stay in them because of the rent increases. And so there was a lot of jumping around, and some kids were in the car or at a friend's or something. Next slide. Next slide. I thought you'd be interested to see this about vehicle miles. This data comes from Caltrans, looking at our major roads, and Highway 101 there on the left. We can see that before the pandemic, 2018, we were doing about 1.4 million, well, it'd be 1.4 billion miles a year, and that has declined even after the pandemic. So something is going on where people are driving less, and the obvious answer might be people are working from home now. And we do have a chart in the book about how many people are working from home compared to other cities, but it's still about 15%.
That's right.
Price. Yep. Next slide. And that completes that. I could take questions, and I have more.
We're running a little bit late, but any
That's what I
questions? But if not, Dave, you did an excellent job like always.
Okay.
And
If I could just show one quick thing. Next slide. So Alex, you liked this 2 years ago. If maybe some point I'll catch up with you and we can talk about, it's a ranking of where Oxnard stands as far as number 1, number 10. Think of it as 10 cities, 10 columns. So, but you could back up to the previous slide. And unless there's any questions,
Thank you,
all
David.
for your time.
Thank you so much. Like always, you do a good job, and there's a lot of good information there for all of us, And one of the things that you said, that Ventura County, Oxnard, and Ventura are safe cities compared to other cities our sizes, which is,
Yes,
which I think is
absolutely.
really important. And we always get criticized for that, but people should know that it's a safe county and safe city.
Right.
Thank you so much for, one quick question.
And also that it is available online, civicalliance.org.
Thank you. With the recent issue about quarantines of particular citrus and the other issues of things getting into the vegetables, does your organization look into how it's going to potentially impact the agricultural industry as far as lost income to the county?
We don't really do projections. That information will probably come out of the Ag Commissioner's report, which is a source for us. And by the way, all the sources we use are listed in the back, along with sponsor messages. But no, I don't have anything to say how I will say this, our farmers are smart and resilient. They faced a lot of things, saltwater intrusion way back in your day, John, or Mr. Mayor. So I think they will find ways to deal with this, to look at what they do. Limonera is a worldwide company, Calavo, Mission Produce. They'll find ways to grow and produce and pack and feed the world.
And in fact, in our next city council meeting, not the committee, we're going to have a citrus presentation for the Farm Bureau.
Oh,
Not the Farm Bureau, or Farm, anyway, yeah.
Ag Commission. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
David.
As usual, really good presentation. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
and happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you so much. Okay, this is a receive and file. Our next item is the opening ceremonies at 6 p.m. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have our Councilmember Teron lead us, and then we'll have a moment of silence.
Moment of silence also?
Yeah, for all the awful things that are happening in this world. But go ahead, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance
Okay.
first.
Thank you. Join me in join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the moment of silence is for all the individuals and all the turmoil that's happening in this world. Thank you. Okay, our next item, we have ceremonial item, and we have a presentation, a proclamation designating the month of November 2021 as Family Caregiving Month. And we have Arceli Presado. Arceli, is she here today? Or any caregivers that want to come up, coming up, and I'll present this to you. Come up to the dais. No, come up.
Oh, all the way.
Anybody else with you? Or how many people want to come over? Okay. And we have two speakers in this item is Susie and also Jasmine Duran. You probably are with you?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you're going to have the speakers.
Okay.
But let me read this first, okay?
Okay.
Cámara, pásale por acá. La mitad. Thank you. El patrón. Sigan. Buenas tardes. Okay. Okay, this is a proclamation, November 2023, Family Caregiving Month. Whereas November is recognized as a National Family Caregiver Month, a time for the entire country to acknowledge the enormous contribution for testing. Okay. Whereas the demographics has changed of Ventura County and across the United States are increasing the need for caregivers, and the need is projected to continue growing. And 1 to 5 of Ventura County residents provide informal, unpaid care to family members, and more than 8,000 in-home supportive services, IHSS caregivers, provide home care services to support over 8,000 low-income disabled seniors and blind residents of Ventura County, nearly 80% of whom are family members. That's really tremendous. Whereas Ventura County caregivers provide vital care to family members and allowing residents to remain safely in their own homes while providing compassionate alternative to hospitalization and other placements outside of the community. Where family caregivers experience considerable stress, physical and emotional burden, and financial strain from their caregiving responsibilities. That's really important to understand that. Whereas in order to meet the future demands of caregivers giving, we must ensure a stable workforce by recognizing today the important contributions in home giving, bringing those receiving care to our communities and the society as a whole. Now therefore, I, John Cesar Argo, as the mayor of the city of Oxnard, do hereby proclaim November 2023 as Caregiving Month in the city of Oxnard and encourage all residents to acknowledge the essential work and contributions of in-home caregivers bring to our community, and to recognize the hard work, dedication, and the courage to care for all those in-home caregivers and give them exemplary every single day of caring for both family and non-family members. And this is signed by the mayor of Oxnard. You want to say a couple of words?
Sure. Thank you. Hello, my name is Susie Valencia. I am an IHSS provider and an SEIU 2015 member. I'm honored to receive this award on behalf of SEIU 2015 and all of its members. May we continue to provide the best services we can to the elderly and those with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, do we have Susie? Susie wanted to speak. Oh, you're Susie. Okay, let me see. And Jaime? Tomas? Go ahead.
I wanted to, on behalf of the 7,000 home caregivers in Ventura County, and also on behalf of the nursing homes and caregivers in the state of California, 480,000, I want to thank the City Council for recognizing November as a caregiver month. And also I wanted to have my special thanks to Arthur Valenzuela. They worked with us in order to reach this honor. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you. We also have Jasmine Duran. Jasmine? Come on up, Mia. Oh, you want to speak from there?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, my name's Jasmine Duron, and I'm the Advocacy and Community Impact Coordinator for Autism Society of Ventura County and a member of their Advocacy Committee. I am here to voice our strong support for the proclamation of November 2023 as National Family Caregiver Month in the city of Oxnard. Family caregivers are the silent heroes who dedicate their lives to the support and care of individuals with special needs, including many with autism. In our county, hundreds of families wake up each morning to the task of nurturing, teaching, and advocating for their loved ones with autism and other disabilities. These jobs are often 24/7 and without breaks, and with challenges that only they can fully understand. Family caregivers have a very hard job without weekends and vacation time and are usually unpaid or underpaid. Autism is a developmental disability that affects social interaction, communication, and behavior. Families who have a loved one with this diagnosis are courageous and determined and often rearrange their lives to accommodate the needs of their autistic family member. Their role is not only as family caregivers, but as educators, therapists, and the ultimate champions for their loved one's inclusion and success. They perform these duties with unmatched love and care. By proclaiming November as National Family Caregiver Month, the City of Oxnard not only acknowledges and celebrates the unwavering commitment of these caregivers, but also elevates the awareness and understanding of the invaluable role they play in our community. It is a month to remind us that family caregivers are the backbone of our society. These heroes need our reinforcement through community understanding, resources, advocacy, and respite care. It goes without saying that additional support for these caregivers and those that they care for is needed. National and local staffing shortages mean a lack of respite care for family caregivers. Many families are unaware that help exists in Ventura County, and once families learn of programs such as respite care and in-home supportive services, they can face lengthy and difficult processes to gain access. Our hope is that every level of government will recognize the value that family caregivers bring to our communities and implement policy accordingly. Autism Society, Ventura County Board and staff would like to send our deepest appreciation for family caregivers in Oxnard and all of Ventura County. Your daily acts of love and perseverance are seen, valued, and supported by our entire community. Council members, thank you for implementing this significant proclamation. Your support can turn the challenges of today into the achievements of tomorrow for every caregiver, family caregiver caring for someone with autism or other disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, well said. Put your hands together for the caregivers. Thank you. Muchas gracias por todo su trabajo. Está muy duro el trabajo y les agradezco mucho. Thank you. I said just thank you so much for the hard work that you do because I know it's very challenging, especially with people with dementia and other individuals. Muchas gracias. Thank you for being here tonight. Gracias, eh? Thank you so much. Pasen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
great day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bueno, seguro que sí. Thank you. Buenas noches. Muy trabajadoras, muy fuerte trabajo. Thank you. Pásale. Thank you. Good man. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have now a proclamation for World's Aid, and we have Saul Fuentes and Chris Ornales. Are they here? And also, I think we have Tess Allen. Fuentes coming up. And Chris Ornales coming up. Do we have Tess Allen? I understand she's not here. Oh, you're standing? Okay, coming up. Okay. Okay, this is a proclamation, World AIDS Day, December 1, 2023, where annually on December 1st we commemorate the World AIDS Day and reflect upon worldwide response with HIV/AIDS epidemics. Whereas in 2023 marks 42 years since the first cases of what is later became known as AIDS were officially reported. Whereas we honored more than 36 million people, including 700,000 in the United States who have died from AIDS-related illness globally. Where in the U.S. theme, the World AIDS Day 2023 is Let Community Lead. Let communities lead. Affirming the Biden-Harris administration dedication to ending HIV both in the United States and around the globe. In 2021, HIV/AIDS Coalition for Ventura County launched a World AIDS Day collaboration, which includes a network of individuals, business leaders, public health and higher education professionals, and non-profit organizations leading into public awareness campaign called GetToZeroVC.org. Stop the spread of HIV infections throughout the community, education, awareness, and action. Now, therefore, I, John Cesar Argosa, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, do hereby proclaim December 1, 2023 as World AIDS Day in the City of Oxnard and urge all residents to join the HIV/AIDS community and activities to remember those who have lost their lives to AIDS and to provide support and dignity and compassion to other people with HIV. And this is signed by the Mayor of the City of Oxnard. Here we go. Thank you. I'd like to say a couple of words.
Sure.
You
Well,
can hold it.
first, thank you so much for recognizing World AIDS Day. I'm Edgar, I'm not Tess or Sal. Sorry about that. I'm the Community Outreach Manager for Diversity Collective. And every year we celebrate World AIDS Day on December 1st. Historically, we have celebrated it here at Heritage Square, so not too far from here. Why I'm so passionate about this work and why I'm accepting this proclamation here today is because I'm born and raised here in the city of Oxnard, and it breaks my heart that the city of Oxnard has the highest positivity rates in the entire county, specifically South Oxnard, at 38%. And this is primarily Black and Latina women who are testing positive every single day. In the state of California, 20 people test positive for HIV. 1 out of 2 people don't know that they have been exposed to HIV 2 years after or they don't get diagnosed 2 years after their exposure. And primarily, this is young women, 18 to 24. This past year, Diversity Collective, alongside with Oxnard LGBT, Oxnard College, and the city of Oxnard, had our first AIDS Walk event here at College Park, where we were able to bring equitable and free access to healthcare to everyone in the community, especially those being affected and living with HIV. So this is a huge recognition, not only for us doing the work, but this is a recognition that the city sees the people of Oxnard, sees and is here to take care of those citizens here that are living with HIV every single day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Hello, my name is Christopher Ornelas. I'm the current chair of the HIV/AIDS Coalition of Ventura County. Previous to that, I worked for the Public Health Department for over 25 years. 10 of those years as a social worker in HIV/AIDS and the administrator for the HIV/AIDS program. Just wanted to give a little information. In the last report dated 2021, we had 50 new cases of HIV/AIDS in our county in 2021, with a total number of 1,265 people living in our county with HIV/AIDS, and the number today is roughly about the same. And unfortunately, in 2021, we lost over 25 people to HIV/AIDS related illnesses. So it is still here in our county. World AIDS Day is the global movement to unite people against the fight against HIV/AIDS. It's important. We've been doing World AIDS Day since 1988, and communities have stood together on World AIDS Day to show strength and solidarity against HIV stigma and to remember the lives lost. We currently globally have 38 million people living with HIV/AIDS virus. More than 35 people have died of HIV since HIV was first detected. And this is over the past 40 years, making it one of the most destructive pandemics in history. So today is, World AIDS Day is a day of remembrance, but also a day, like Edgar stated, that We need to have action and continued support for community members and for those living in our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Put your hands together for him. Thank you again. Appreciate it very much. Thank you for coming by. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to
Go
say
ahead.
something.
Yes, sir.
For anyone that doesn't think, and I hope the two individuals don't leave. For anyone that doesn't think elections matter, today the former First Lady, Rosalind Carter, passed away. And her husband lost an election in 1980, bringing in former California Governor Ronald Reagan and his wife. When the AIDS crisis first came to light, that man that became president refused to acknowledge it. And it impacted this country tremendously. And the reason I bring it up, you can't keep your head in the sand. You cannot keep your head in the sand. Nature has a way of making you face reality. Elections count. This is not a one vote for this guy, vote for that person, that lady. It's not that. But your votes count. And the actions of individuals that want to keep their heads in the sand cannot prevent the outbreak that happened in this country. Other places acknowledged the success in other areas, I believe, was better than it was in our area. It took way too long. Too many people lost their lives on this. And with respect to the public outreach in the city of Oxnard, I'm not sure, but I believe it's the county is more involved. Yesterday, there was a story in the LA Times about syphilis in LA County and the outreach and the number of children, babies that are born, stillborn, babies that are born with health impacts because the parents, the mothers are not being treated. This affects everybody. There's no telling what that child could become. Could be the person that takes my seat, could be the person that becomes the president, could be the person that finds some new breakthrough that makes something happen. Nobody is disposable. And we need to do a better job. I don't know that the city of Oxnard can take the lead in this, but I do know that the public health department is in Ventura County. I hope that a lot of you will bring that to the attention of your elected county officials. Thank you for letting me say that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is public comments not on the agenda. And people have 3 minutes to speak. If you have not signed up, it's a time to sign up. So we are going to start off with Madam Clerk with Davina. Is she virtual?
Mayor Zaragoza, yes, she's available virtually. Let me unmute her.
Davina, you got 3 minutes.
Davina, please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Davina Garcia, and I was born and raised in Oxnard. Last council meeting, I and numerous Oxnard residents voiced their concerns and disapproval of agenda item K2 that would upgrade and replenish military equipment for the Oxnard Police Department. Despite the blatant disapproval from the City Council's constituents, agenda item K2 was passed with a 7-1 vote that allows the Oxnard Police Department to replenish their supply of flashbangs and drones that are both listed as military equipment under California Legislator Assembly Bill 481. Within California Legislator Assembly Bill 481, Section 1A, the legislator declares the acquisition of military equipment and its deployment in our communities adversely impacts the public safety and welfare, including increased risk of civilian deaths, significant risk to civil rights, civil liberties, and physical and psychological well-being, and incurment of significant financial costs. Military equipment is more frequently deployed in low-income Black and Brown communities meaning the risk and impacts of police militarization are experienced most acutely in marginalized communities. The California legislature has recognized that supplying military equipment to local law enforcement has negative impacts to public safety. Though last council meeting, Oxnard City Council members failed to address the racist and classist implications of the growing militarization of the Oxnard Police Department, as well as the increase in the surveillance state in Oxnard. Regarding the K2 agenda items last council meeting on the Oxnard Police Department's purchase of military equipment, Mayor Zaragoza stated, quote, "Because of legislation, they call it military equipment, not because we're buying military equipment or using military equipment," end quote. In this statement, Mayor Zaragoza, a city government official, mind you, recognizes state legislation, Assembly Bill 481, that deems flashbangs and drones as military equipment, but seemingly downplays California legislation by claiming that it's not military equipment, it's just called that. It is insulting and disappointing to have city government officials downplay state legislation, and in doing so,
30
lie to their
seconds.
constituents about the purchase and use of military equipment by OPD. Mayor Zaragoza is also noted saying in this same meeting that the city is not militarizing the OPD. Let me remind you that this concept of militarizing the police means to supply local law enforcement with military equipment and military-style tactics. I want the residents of Oxnard to realize that an increase in surveillance in Oxnard and the militarization of the Oxnard Police Department is happening
Thank you.
now
Thank
and
you.
has been occurring for the past 10 years.
Thank you. Our next speaker is here. Any other virtual speakers?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no additional virtual speakers.
Okay, so I'm now going to Anthony Ventura, followed by Alejandro Perez. Anthony Ventura.
Good evening, City Council members and Mayor. I wanted to touch on a city ordinance that was first started in Santa Ana, which is a transparency ordinance that helps the city enforce keeping contractors honest. It's been implemented now in the city of San Diego, the county of San Diego, and also now Chula Vista. I think it would be great here because we see a lot of contractors come from other areas, mostly, definitely out of the area, but mostly from the Inland Empire. They come here and they do a lot of cash pay. I know that you guys all received an email that I sent you guys with some contractors that are doing work here locally, right here at the 4 apartments. I remember that night, the city council meeting, because you guys had to do an extension because we were going past 11 o'clock. And I know we talked about local hire, or you guys talked about local hire. We made some comments about local hire. This was about approximately 18 months ago. When that discussion was brought up, it was brought up that they were going to, the contractors were going to hire local contractors, which they have not. They said they were going to try to work with hiring local skilled and trained residents. They have not. They picked 2 of the worst contractors here in the state of California. I'm not going to touch too much on that because my colleague's going to talk about that. But if you'd like that city ordinance, if you haven't seen it, I can provide it. I have provided it to a few city council members. I think it's important that you read it. You look at it, your city attorney, your city manager, review it. It may not fit just perfectly for Oxnard, but it can be tailored to the city of Oxnard. It's something that is not a union thing or a non-union thing. It's just keeping contractors honest. That's all we're asking. I want to touch on that it impacts the city of Oxnard because you lose tax revenue. When you're paying a guy cash, he's not paying taxes on it. He's paying it to one guy, and that guy's dispersing the money to, say, 15, 20 guys. That's lost revenue not only to the city of Oxnard, but to the police department here, to the fire department, to public works, to all kinds of programs that money could go to, fixing your roads. So I think you really need to look at that ordinance, review those contractors, and hey, if they're good contractors, you have nothing to worry about. I mean, they're gonna go through with shining colors. But if they got issues, they've got, not grievances, excuse me, but they've got fines and they've been caught, not working safe. I think that's something that you guys seriously need to look at. I mean, you'd be the first person in the county to do it, but other counties have done it, and they're doing it more. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alejandro Perez.
How's everybody doing tonight? First, I just want to wish, hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. So my name is Alejandro Perez. I'm a member out of Local 805. I've been a representative for about 3 years now. Prior to being a representative, I was a labor compliance investigator. I covered from Santa Maria down to Irvine. And I saw a lot of things that it blew my mind. Wage theft, tax fraud, workman's comp fraud. But to be more specific, Ormond Beach Villas, that's one good example. I compiled an investigation for the Labor Commissioner on the Ormond Beach Villas project that happened down on Channel Islands Boulevard. I remember it was probably five years to the day where I would visit the job site, talk to workers, and I didn't like to talk to them too much on the job site because it kind of gets you in a bad spot with the foreman, the superintendent, or the higher-ups. But I'd give them my card, talk to them a little bit. I remember 4 guys complained that they were getting cash pay and they got fired like the next day. They were fired. So this is, it's all over the place. Larrabee is slated to build 4 properties. They have several deaths, death citations from OSHA. I know that Grant Construction was fined right around $1 million. They're slated to build a project for People's Self-Help. That was for wage theft. I mean, it's happening everywhere. Tobo Construction, Fillmore Fire Station, $1 million by the State Labor Commissioner. So these ordinances are huge. And like Mr. Perello said, let's not bury our head in the sand, and let's be the change and start the change here in Oxnard. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Lang Martinez.
Mayor, council members, happy Thanksgiving. My name's Lang Martinez. I'm a homeless advocate. I kind of told myself I was going to come back here again. We've been doing a lot of things, getting ready to start with a nonprofit in January and February. I've been traveling. Either I'm in Oregon or I'm in different areas talking about issues of homelessness. The reason I came back is I've been hit a lot recently in regards to a lot of mothers contacting me in regards to their children. One happens to be here today in regards to the fact that there's nothing here to help them. That Housing First model is not going to do it. I was talking to Vianey Lopez. She talked about the detox, and she said that, it was her idea 2 weeks ago. I'm actually broke that detox in because they didn't want to take an individual. We did an assessment on him, and I walked him in the hospital, and I swore I was on the phone with the BC Star, Stacy, with the doctor saying, "You sure you want to go this route? I do have a platform, and I will blast this." They said it was a holiday, and I said, "What, people don't die on holidays?" So they ended up taking that gentleman. Now, the problem with that is they ended up taking that gentleman who was on fentanyl, and with the release from it on the fentanyl, not quite a long period of time to do an assessment for mental health and the drug addiction, co-occurring disorders, blah, blah, blah. Definitely holding your head in the sand. You guys need to pull it out. So the situation is when they released him, there was no place for him to go. So what happens is when you do that, it's not a long enough period of time because we got to get this guy some mental health. But also, they're releasing the individual with a script for the fentanyl, for the detoxification. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You're talking about holding your head in the sand. How many deaths we had recently here in Oxnard in regards to fentanyl? We've had a lot more deaths in fentanyl than we had in HIV. I know that for a fact. I talk to law enforcement all the time, whether it's law enforcement here in Oxnard or Ventura or LA. There's a lot of deaths when it comes to fentanyl. The problem out here is that we're utilizing LA for their resources. And in my story, I talked about I couldn't get the help here, and I put that in one of my articles. You can yell it all you want. in one of my articles what I went through and that I had to get help in LA County. And from LA County, I came back here and I utilized what was available. We're still utilizing LA County resources for detoxifications and programs. We don't have anything available. This mother here met with you today, and she's losing her child. I deal with mothers all the time because I swore I would never come in here because I'm dealing with a bunch of individuals, and I'm sorry, you have your heads in the sand, all of you. Especially when you hired Alex Newen and you hired Emilio Ramirez. That was the biggest mistake Oxnard ever did. We have a crisis on our hands with the homeless. The gentleman showed it. We have an increase. Project, room key, home key, whatever key.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Thank you. Okay, our last speaker that I have here is Bishop Lamont Chills Hayes. Bishop Lamont. Welcome.
Your Honor, Honorable Mayor Zaragoza, to the distinguished council members, City Manager Alex Nguyen, and Chief of Police Jason Benitez, and also Fire Chief Alex Hamilton. God bless you. I'm here with Bobby Granham and Jason Damu. I'm here in hopes of support from the council because there's a lack of knowledge, there's a lack of communication, there's a lack of support. There's a lot of businesses, a lot of entertainment, a lot of residents are leaving because we're not sharing what we're doing in Oxnard. The Welcome Center for the city of Oxnard only shares things that draws Oxnard, people to Oxnard, where we have people in Oxnard that don't know what's going on. A lot of the community things, the Powell Center had events and no one showed up. A lot of folks didn't show up because they didn't know. They live right around the corner. We need to find a way and a solution to communicate and get the word out. Word of mouth, Oxnard city citizens on Facebook, we have the ability to connect word of mouth. However, it's not effective. I know that the Oxnard City Council approved a budget for the sign, but the planning decided want to shoot it down, so I'm gonna go and talk to them. We need to find a way to get the advertisement. There are things that needs to be done. Because of the funding, because of the mental state, because of the resources that we have in this county, we are a rich county. Oxnard is the largest city, and we are not sharing none of the information. The colleges have resources, the district attorney's office have resources, and they said nobody asked for it. So what I did in July 28th, I started the Ventura County Resource Center. Got a board of diverse, multi-faceted religious leaders, and we started the Ventura County Resource Center. With that, we were able to get the 501c3, the nonprofit, the business license, the place of storage, as well as funding, and plan an event for December 9th, all within 90 days. It's important that we get this information out. December 9th at Oxnard College Park, we will be there with resources. There are nonprofit organizations. Councilmember Gabrielle, I need to work with you. There are a lot of things that we need to do in this community, and we can do it if we work together. So I'm here to go and get the sign. There's other ways. I know the city said that they don't want another LED. They don't want another sign. They don't want the distractions. There's another way. If I can start a business within 90 days and have a planned event, we can do this to get better information out. People need the resources. They need the help. I know I asked them, did they need anything to say? They said no. But December 9th, if you meet me at College Park, we'll be there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bishop. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers virtually or in person?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, thank you. Then our next item is item H. This is a report of the city manager. And also the subject is local government fun facts. Homeless crisis, recommendation the public and city council receive a city manager discussion, putting the state of California homeless crisis in perspective. Mr. Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to talk about homelessness tonight with a statewide perspective versus a localized perspective. So I need Diego to put up the slides and we can get right into it. All right, so once again, this is putting our homeless crisis in the state's context, not just any particular city, neighborhood, or community. So to begin, I ask everyone just to look at this image for a moment and in your own minds, just think about what thoughts, ideas, knowledge, experiences this image brings into your mind. And keep it to yourself. We're not going to start a debate tonight. So, but this is a relatively typical image, not only in California, but up and down the entire west coast of this country. And it is also becoming a little bit more and more common across the country as well. So this slide depicts, this is from SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments, and we are a member. I think everyone in this county is a member. This specifically was published, I believe, in 2017 or 18, but it covers the period of, I think, 1996 to 2016. But the trend is similar today. The top red line here shows you the pretty sharp increase in the cost of housing in California. And the bottom, I'm going to call this blue. Blue line here depicts the relatively flat wages over the same amount of time. Now you can take this backwards in time a few decades and forward a few decades. The other thing I want to draw out, and this is what we're going to get to, is you're going to see a similar type of shape of chart when it comes to population growth in California versus the production of housing units in California. So keep this in mind. Right, now, the reason we're having, I needed to have this public conversation tonight is we've all been sensing that we are all losing patience with the homeless crisis. And it's very difficult to talk about it in human terms anymore. So let me try very briefly just to talk about it in fish terms. So here's an aquarium full of fish, and everyone's pretty comfortable. There's plenty of water, plenty of room. So take this back to that beginning point about 4 decades ago in California. Over time, population in California continues to grow, but we're not producing housing. Over more time, it gets really crowded in terms of our population growth, but we're still not keeping up with the production of housing units. So over the last 4 decades, as the California population has increased significantly, the number of housing units, and by housing units, I mean all kinds of housing, have not been produced. And that has largely to do with, not here in Oxnard, but a lot of communities and a lot of cities where our own citizens, our own residents have opposed the construction of multifamily housing near their sacred single-family home residence neighborhoods. This has been clearly a California trend over the last 4 decades. So what's happened now? Well, some of the fish are homeless. And the public discourse, unfortunately, has been to focus on this one because this fish has a drug problem, or this one because this fish has mental health issues, or this one because this fish has a criminal record. And we have taken this approach to move these fish around to get away from where they're causing a certain problem, whether it's in a neighborhood, and by the way, very real problems. Not made up problems, but very real problems. And we've just moved them around. And we've tried to do mental health services, and I mean, look at this fish here that's upside down in this puddle. Imagine if you're just trying to perform fish CPR. I don't know what that is, but let's just go with it. You want to perform fish CPR on this fish, it's not going to really work. Almost everything that we're doing out here isn't going to really work because what they all need is another fish tank. That's what it's really about. So the public discourse, unfortunately, has focused on some of the individual fish out here. So, again, this has been the focus, which is really the horrible symptom of the problem that in California we simply lack housing. And this is the horrible symptom of it. But this is what we focus on. All right. Now, this past summer, UCSF published a tremendous study that they spent a year collecting data and then analyzing. I think it was over 3,000 participants. This study is available online. And in a broad overview, one of the most important things is to understand that there are really three categories of homelessness in California. The largest category, which represents, according to this study, about 2/3 of our homeless community, are considered short-term homelessness. And then the next category, which represents only about 1/3, are the chronic homelessness. And then within that 1/3 is actually a smaller subset, which we often refer to as service resistant. And it's unfortunately the service resistant folks that cause some of the public nuisance issues, which are very real, but has also become the focal point of the public discourse. So the study, by the way, is available.
Excuse me, City Manager, before you leave, can you just tell the public what UCSF, so it's not some...
Oh, I'm sorry, University of California, San Francisco.
Thank you.
So, and this particular study is named the Benioff, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Benioff Homeless and Housing Initiative. So this study is available online. It is free, so you can view it online or you can download it like I did and study it further. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too many details, but to just show you what they've done is they've looked at, again, who experiences homeless, and it's basically in terms of age groups, it's everyone. What's interesting is that more than half of the people who are homeless in California are above the age of 50 and aging. It's also in terms of ethnicity, it's basically everybody. In terms of gender, it's everybody. In terms of their experiences during homelessness, you can see many people have to go and make emergency department visits. Many people get hospitalized. The point is, it's not monolithic, is the point. So please, if you're concerned, if you're interested, look at this study. It's not very long. It's less than 100 pages. There's great detail in here. Details about people reporting about their health issues, about when they became homeless, how they became homeless, breakdown about whether people were leaseholders or subleaseholders. And, I've always said, if any of us who are not homeless were to find ourselves homeless, I'm pretty sure, especially in the wintertime, sooner or later we'd be looking for some sort of something to numb ourselves, whether it's alcohol or drugs or so on. And I know for myself, I'd probably be categorized as having serious mental health issues within several months. So there's a clear breakdown about all the experiences, the variety. And again, the key point is to understand it's not monolithic. So you cannot think of the homeless community in California as a singular, it isn't just people suffering from mental health illness or drug addiction or people coming out of the prison system. In some cases, those categories overlap, and in many cases, they're none of the above, right? A lot of this has to do with economics. So I remind you back to this, which is the cost of housing has skyrocketed in large part because the construction of various kinds of housing has not been produced. And by the way, so it's California, it's us, it's we the people that have, for whatever sets of reasons, prized the sanctity of single-family housing residence neighborhoods. And a lot of communities and entire cities have really made it hard for multifamily, working-class housing to be built, be they townhomes, condos, apartment buildings, what have you. Now, how has the state government reacted over the years? They've passed, you're not going to believe how many bills, but here you have, this is from last year, this is 2022. These are all the bills that were proposed in the legislature last year. And this is how many that actually passed. Now, this is just 2022. Now, if you go back a decade, the state legislature has passed about 400 housing-related bills. And unfortunately, we're nowhere near resolving the problem of having simply enough housing for the population, regardless of what you think about the homeless population. Now, in terms of the cost, you can see these are four recent affordable housing projects in Oxnard, including our very own soon-to-be-open shelter plus permanent supportive housing. But you can see the four projects here in the cost per unit. We're looking at $723,000, $515,000, $683,000, and $610,000. Bottom line is, building housing in California is expensive. And to some extent, all these bills, these state laws, have contributed to making it more expensive, more difficult, more painstaking. It just adds to the issues. LA Times reported that the average cost in the Bay Area is well over $1 million. And this is, again, for affordable housing, not market rate housing. And in the Southern California region, it's not any better. So here's the crux of the problem. The homelessness crisis is because we actually have a housing crisis. So I'm calling this the California housinglessness mess. We're in a world of hurt here. So if you look at what's happened over nearly half a century, and yes, start here. So in everyone's efforts to protect the single-family residential pristine neighborhood with the white picket fence in the backyard and the front yard, the resistance over the decades to building housing near these neighborhoods and then you get all this population growth, it's kind of obvious that we have this housinglessness mess, housing crisis, which also contributes largely to our homeless crisis. Now what's happened is, in recent years, the state has intervened pretty harshly. And many of the housing bills have to do with ignoring, usurping, bypassing, circumventing, you can frame it many ways, local land use authority. So now it's a lot easier to build multifamily just about anywhere, right? And in addition, with recent laws for ADUs, alternative dwelling units, that can now be built in the backyard, the side yard of these single-family homes. Now you're going to, cities, communities are starting to see people put these ADUs, or they used to be called granny flats, into these neighborhoods. But recent state law says, well, now it's also possible for you to sell that off like a condo, and potentially without all the city regulations. So all these efforts all these years to protect this is now potentially ruining this. Now, it could get even worse. So what's on the horizon? Well, not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, a couple cities in other states, in Spokane, Washington, the voters, and this is where I'm saying the pendulum is coming back hard the other direction. The voters decided to authorize their police department, this is Spokane, Washington, to issue tickets to people who camp within 1,000 feet of schools, parks, playgrounds, and childcare facilities. Their voters passed this by a margin of 75%. And these are local ways to sort of get around the federal court's rule that homelessness per se cannot be criminalized. In Boulder, Colorado, voters passed the authority to remove homeless encampments, now get this, near schools and sidewalks. Well, near schools is obvious, and there's an obvious nexus, but sidewalks means wherever there's a sidewalk. That's pretty much, I'm guessing that's, certainly most of downtown Boulder. That passed by 62 to 38. So my big concern is we're coming back because we've all lost patience to a place where we're going to begin to criminalize being homeless again and use public safety to play whack-a-mole on steroids and just move people around because there's no housing for them. Here in California, we have a bill that's made it through the process and is going to be on the ballot in March. Now, this bill is some billion dollars, $6.38 billion to be accurate, for mental health services. Now, what's interesting is when you look at, and this is for all of us in California to vote on in March, but it authorizes that much money for various programs focused on mental health. And again, since the public discourse about homeless is around mental health patients, when you read what's on this bill, there's something that really concerns me, which is it provides for mental health services in residential settings. So going back to protecting the sanctity of residential settings, there may be another unintended consequence with this bill. So, and just this week, we received the news that the Supreme Court decided it would not hear a California case questioning the legitimacy of sober living homes. So there's a signal that if we get to a place where we're going to have state-sanctioned mental health facilities in our neighborhoods, we will not have any jurisdiction or authority over that. So I am very concerned about the state of homelessness. Now, I have this one more time because I want to make it clear, this is actually a symptom of what I call, again, the housinglessness mess in California. So if you look at the governor's roadmap for the current cycle that we're in, he was proposing that we build 55,000 units in California during these few years. And when you do the math on that, based on the cost that you saw of affordable housing in California, that would require $44 billion. That's with a B. Now, the LA Times also reported that the state as a whole is short about 2.5 million housing units. So you, again, took an average cost of $800,000. If we could ever build the 2.5 million units, you're looking at $2 trillion in current costs. So the California GDP annually is 3.6 trillion. So that would require more than half of the state's annual GDP. Now, California, as everyone probably is aware, we're the 6th largest economy on the planet. Right? There are only 10 countries that have higher GDP than the state of California. And in terms of the size of the economy, only 5. But we also have the largest homeless population in the country. So I guess that means we're not as progressive as everyone thinks we are. So I say all this to say that my fear is, number one, that because we've all lost patience, we're going to keep focused on the false public discourse that the problem is with the homeless individual versus the lack of housing. One, two, that we're going to recriminalize our homeless residents, many of whom are not drug addicts or are not drug criminals. That when you do the math with the cost of affordable housing, it's beyond the capacity of cities to fix this problem. When you look at the largest cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, who have annual general funds of in the billions with a B, and they've had a real struggle taking care of homelessness. My concern is this probably requires a federal intervention on the scale of the New Deal projects that came into place after the Great Depression. So I just want to try to help everyone to reframe how we look at this and be a little bit more realistic about the actual problem versus the symptom, and then the scale at which it would be required. In the meantime, of course, we will continue with our enforcement. We will continue with our homeless services. We will continue to get as much affordable housing built as possible. But the scale of it, I am now convinced, is beyond the ability of individual California cities to tackle. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. You're done? Yes. Yeah, thank you. Before we go, Councilman Toronto, I just want to share something that we're not unique, here in Oxnard. A lot of people say, well, we have a lot of homeless here in Oxnard, and of course, this was mentioned before by Mr. Marin, that probably our rents are really, really high, but not as high as other cities. But just people to understand that we're not unique. It's just across California and other states, it's a major problem. Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. City Manager, for that information and for the perspective looking at it on a statewide and almost a systemic level. And I just want to say, number one, that we can certainly have debate or discourse around strategies around addressing homelessness and helping those and supporting those who are unhoused. But to make an argument saying, well, why put people into housing? Why are we focusing on housing when there are folks who struggle to take care of themselves or struggle to be self-sufficient? And it sounds to me like that argument is almost saying that people don't deserve housing or don't deserve shelter. And I'm of the mindset that shelter is one of the basic human rights. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, towards the bottom there of our basic needs, shelter and safety are tantamount to what we need as human beings. And to say that there are, or imply that there are people who don't deserve housing because of maybe their mental health challenges or behavioral health challenges that they have with substance use disorders. To say they deserve to be out on the sidewalk or left out and thrown out and cast away is inhumane, in my personal opinion. And that being said, looking at the factor of mental health and substance use disorders, I would like to remind folks that the city of Oxnard, the city of Camarillo, the city of Thousand Oaks, any municipal entity in the county of Ventura doesn't directly provide services for mental health issues or for substance use services. Those are provided by the county of Ventura, and I have to say that the county does what they can given the resources they have, in which point we have to look at the state. What is the state providing to the counties to address these issues? And we also have to look at the federal government. And I just, again, my personal opinion is that where we are now in 2023 is a culmination of decades of underinvestment and low prioritization of mental health and substance use services, and admitting that that was something we needed to prioritize higher. And seeing it now, yes, it's difficult to see, yes, it's difficult to address, but it doesn't mean we just bury our heads in the sand, as is the theme tonight, and hope it goes away. And so there are multiple factors to this. There are multiple pieces at play. And there's no one thing we're going to do that's going to solve homelessness in the city of Oxnard or in the state of California. There are multiple strategies and multiple support systems that we have to all be part of to be part of that solution. And the last thing I'll say is I'm willing to be proven wrong on this, but I believe the city of Oxnard is probably doing the most out of any city when it comes to homelessness. When we look at the amount of resources dedicated to it in funding, in strategies, in staff time, in police resources, in public safety resources from police and fire, and in the number of programs we have for folks to go to. And is this something that we need to do? Absolutely. Is it something that is a requirement on paper? Well, someone could argue that falls on the county and that falls on the state, but we need to do it regardless. And we're doing, again, my opinion, far more than any other of the 10 cities are. And I hope that everybody takes a very realistic, hard look at what they're doing to be part of this solution. And I hope folks, after hearing what the city manager said and hearing this put into context, know a little bit more about that before they say the city's doing nothing or the city doesn't care, because that is not accurate and that's not the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Perrello.
Thank you, Councilman Duran, and thank you, City Manager. Thank you, the City of Oxnard, for this. A couple of things one correction in the report. It was mentioned something possibly mediated like the federal government's New Deal, and the comment was after the Depression. The New Deal came out as soon as Roosevelt got in office, in the midst of the Depression. And it's a small technical thing. But one correction from a member of the public that made a comment during public comment. Sometimes people come to the podium and they want something. They don't get their way and they raise Cain. They get their way and it's the best thing that's happened. The gentleman that said that hiring this city manager and the city manager hiring the housing director was a mistake is 180 degrees wrong. 180 degrees wrong. We did have a presentation earlier in the day about the state of the region. They gave wages, they gave the explanation about education, they gave the ability to get a job, the wages and the incomes that people would have, could they qualify for a home? I can tell you that if I had to qualify to get into the home that I live in now, I would not qualify to get into that home. I can't speak for any of the members of the council, but when the homes are as expensive as they are now, I think there would be a lot of people in a situation similar to mine. The issues that we're doing and the issues that we're facing, the public is asking a lot of questions. The gratefulness of this councilman for the types of reports that's here does not ignore an issue that comes up continuously. If we spend that kind of money, if it costs us $700 and some thousand, and if we can bring up slide number 20, showing that it costs X numbers of dollars per unit, those are a combination of units, and I hope that I'm correct. Combination of apartments, condos, single-family homes, ADUs. That's the price for those things. There are homes on the market now that are more than that. And the bigger question, the one that I know I will get a phone call when I get done here, probably coming in right now. How are we going to assist the people that are homeless to qualify and get into these homes? And if they get in, how are we going to help them keep the homes? When there are people that are already having struggles keeping the homes that they're in. I don't have the answers for that, but these are big problems that this council, this county, this city, the state, and the federal government have to face. Burying our heads in the sand, kicking the can down the road, going to the next election cycle, making all the promises in the world and never paying the bill. It can't keep going on. It can't keep going on. And when I'm talking about people to get into these homes, I'm not talking about a person that may have substance abuse. I'm talking about a person that doesn't have substance abuse. They're holding down a full-time job, but they're homeless. One of the telling things on the individual at the very beginning, on the state of the region, the number of homeless in the school districts in the city of Oxnard. I remember years ago being at a real school district board meeting when they talked about how many kids were in the school district that were homeless. I was like blown away. And here we show, not this time, but in that previous one, combined with this, just the state of the situation. I see more than the normal number of people in the audience tonight. I'm hoping that you have a warm place to sleep tonight and a roof over your head. There are a lot of people that don't. I'm very damn lucky that I have one. Very damn lucky. And it's a combination of luck and work, but a lot of luck that allowed me to be in that situation. I don't know how we are going to address these issues, but they are not going away. And I appreciate somebody making us look at it. We cannot bury our heads in the sand. If we get the construction of all these homes at these costs in the city of Oxnard, with the combination of SOAR, with the combination of costs, the people would be working, and I appreciate the gentleman that brought up watching the contractors and keeping them in line. Those people that if they were working, bringing in the paycheck, would they be able to qualify for the price of the homes that are on this list? It'd be kind of hard, especially showing what the incomes were. It'd be kind of hard. It's a bigger issue than just ABC. As the city manager has mentioned multiple times, a game that I didn't like, a video thing called whack-a-mole. You just move the problem down the street, move the problem off the screen. There has to be something better. I am not smart enough to figure out what it is, but it's got to be everybody pulling in the same direction. And the confusion that gets brought up and brought into this conversation by individuals that made the comment at the very beginning of the meeting, that puts a lot of mess in this problem. There's another word for that mess. But people like that and not facing reality is not helping us. And I'm grateful that we have something like this coming to our attention. I'm grateful for this segment of a city council meeting. We've brought to the attention the issues tonight, homeless, but in the past we brought the attention the quality of the educations coming out of the school districts in our community. It's a competition, and we're not where we need to be in the competition. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Valenzuela, you want to share your virtual? You want to share some?
Yes, for my council remarks.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not there yet, so okay. We'll get back to you.
Excuse me, Mayor Zaragoza, we have 2 virtual speakers for this item.
Okay, just go ahead and take the speakers, and then we'll get back to you, Councilman.
Okay, the first speaker is caller with phone number ending in 6377. Please press *6 to unmute, and you can introduce yourself if you like, and you have 3 minutes.
Got 3 minutes.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Zaragoza, members of the City Council. My name is Manuel Herrera. I'm the creator of Citizens for a Better Oxnard. A couple of days ago, a member posted about problems he was having on K Street with certain members of the homeless community, specifically with the Masonic building that he manages. Some of the problems had to do with fences being destroyed, people taking drugs, cars being vandalized, security cameras being destroyed, campfires going on in the middle of the street, et cetera, et cetera. He has posted this several times on Citizens, and that's why I was compelled to call in today. I know that there's several sides to every story, and I know that several council members have spoken to Mr. Torres, but apparently the problem continues. So with all due respect, I would like to know what can be done that hasn't already been done to remedy this situation. I also know that some of the buildings are owned by the school district, which also means that they and not the city are responsible for its upkeep. Some of those buildings are empty and boarded up, which obviously is going to attract the wrong element. Is the city in touch with the school district? Is the school district going to sell these buildings? If not, can they demolish them? If not, can they sell the property to the city? Or better yet, maybe they can lease the land to the city for $1 a year, and the city can then make this land part of the campus park project. My point is, there has to be a solution. There has to be. If anything, let's get a meeting together with all the parties involved, city officials, the police department, the school district, Mr. Torres, and let's find a solution where every party does their part. Heck, I'm even willing to attend this meeting. So I hope this issue can be resolved sooner than later before it gets out of hand. And I know it's just a few, you know, there's always just a few who create problems. Just today, I went and I drove there around 10:30 a.m. just to see for myself, because the pictures that Mr. Torres had posted, you know, looked pretty bad. Fortunately, when I went by there, it didn't
30
look that
seconds.
bad. There were some people around and everything, but it wasn't, you know, looking dirty. There weren't tents around there, so I don't know if they maybe cleared it up. But anyway, I'm hoping there can be a resolution by all parties involved. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. And I know that Mr. Ramirez, our housing director, our city manager, and the Oxnard PD are working on that issue, you know, at the Masonic Temple area and also the surrounding neighborhoods. But absolutely a good point that we continue working on that, Manny. Next speaker.
Okay, the next speaker is caller with phone number ending in 9665. Please press *6 to unmute, and you can introduce yourself if you like, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, hi, this is Barbara Macri-Ortiz calling. And I want to thank the city manager for that great report. I think it's a good thing to put it as fishes. Maybe it might help us understand a little bit. This is a very big challenge, and I think the solution is we have to recognize that housing is a human right, not an investment. And this push and pull, particularly with the single-family homes, really comes down to that. And I don't know how we're going to be able to change that, but I think especially with the size of the problem that he's demonstrated, until we accept that housing is a human right, not an investment, we're not going to be able to make the kind of progress that we need to make. I think the council members for their comments, also Council Member Tehran, and also with my friend Manuel. I live right in that neighborhood, and one of the issues is, yes, all of these vacant buildings are owned by the Oxnard School District, and they'll probably tell you they can't sell them or for a proper price because of the airport. And the airport has been one of the thorns in our side, constantly dictating what can be done in our community. And why we have this problem with vagrancy in that area is because we have a huge attractive nuisance with all that land with nobody there anymore. And I know that the city has done quite a bit. I'll see, you know, the big tents and then they'll be gone. So I know there is some enforcement out there. But again, I think it goes to the problem that the city manager was trying to demonstrate, you know, that it's a big problem, and it's not related to just those that have a drug problem or have a drinking problem. Those are the ones that are most visible and detested by people, and so they get the brunt of the, you know, the stuff being thrown at them. But the
30
problem
seconds.
is not them. The problem is absolutely that we do not have enough housing. And as long as we think that housing is our big investment and we do everything to protect that investment, we are never going to be able to conquer the problem. And I'm right there with Councilman Perello, that there's no way on God's earth I would be able to have this house today if I had to buy it at today's price.
Thank you, thank
And
you.
I would be homeless too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, I think Barbara mentioned something important, maybe that we can show that video on Channel 35 and 10, you know, for the public, because I think it was excellent presentation that people can understand what homeless issue is, not just an Oxnard issue, but a statewide or so issue. So I think it's an excellent recommendation. Thank you. So we're going to go into, one more?
One more comment, Mayor. I missed it on my thing.
Excuse me, Mayor Zaragoza. Just for the record, there's no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you so much.
There, as I had mentioned earlier in the evening, votes matter, 1980. If some of you were around long enough, Camarillo, the Channel Islands College used to be Camarillo State Hospital. It was a mental facility. Former governor of California, Ronald Reagan, shut it down, and they put the people out on the public. And that happened here. And there's not been a tremendous move to create more mental health institutions. And that's something that needs to be done. And again, votes have consequences.
Thank you. Our next item is item I, and this is this time is for the members of the City Council to make any brief announcements on their activities, and also if they'd like to place the items for future agenda items. And also, we have 3 minutes, and we'll start off with Councilmember Valenzuela, virtually.
Thank you, Mayor Zaragoza. First, I just wanted to state, I was asked by the city attorney to state this for disclosure purposes. I'm having a I'm participating remotely because of a just cause reason. I tested positive for COVID last week and still testing positive as of this morning. So I wanted to stay safe and keep my peers safe as well. There's no one else in my residence that's 18 years or older, just 2 cats running around making noises, and probably run into videos of it. But yes, just wanted to make that statement. And is that all good, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And so far, no other comments to be made at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, and get well. Thank you. Councilman Tehran? Well, we're starting from that. Okay. You want to do it? Okay. Councilman Basua?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Tehran. First of all, before anything else, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody enjoys time with their families. Second, I want to mention the union members that were here today and are here today. They mentioned a city ordinance in order to try to get some control in regards to the contractors that are coming into our city and hiring individuals that are just not up to licensing, and the contractors that are not paying the wages that they need to pay to these individuals. Again, my main concern is that I personally do not want individuals working in the city of Oxnard that are not being compensated fairly. To me, that is our contractors taking advantage of hardworking individuals. I would like to have staff bring something back to us, look at the ordinance that have been passed in Santa Ana, San Diego County, and Chula Vista, and see how we can hopefully bring something back for us in order to pass as an agenda item. Yes, correct. And that's all I have, and I hope to have council member support.
Support that. Do we have to vote on that, Mr. Sid? No? Okay, we got support to bring it back. That's a good question, because I think 805 has some good questions about wage theft and other issues that are really important.
Thank you. I appreciate the support. And thank you to the union members that are here today for everything you do for our community.
Thank you. Councilman Tehran?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just take a quick opportunity to support Councilmember or Councilwoman Basua's request for that to be looked at by staff and brought forward to a future public meeting as an agenda item. And I want to thank the folks who brought that out, and including, just to be transparent as well, for providing the existing ordinances for other cities for review, so we can see what's going on. And just very briefly to hear and know that there is exploitation is the word I'm going to use, of workers in the city of Oxnard or in our region who are being paid cash and are just part of an overall strategy to reduce overhead just for the sake of the bottom line is despicable. And we need to address that in any way we can as a responsible city and as elected officials and community leaders. So thank you for bringing that forward. And I look forward to that coming back to us in the near future. And just real quickly, I attended the Veterans Day ceremony at Plaza Park. I want to thank everybody who had a hand in putting that together to recognize and acknowledge the commitment that our veterans had made to our nation and to our public, especially those who have passed or those who did not come back home. And Councilmember Perello and I also attended the Airport Authority last week and got updates on the noise study and a few other items. I invite folks to go watch the recording of that particular meeting if they'd like to hear more about those items. And last but not least, I'll have more of an update, I think, at our next council meeting, but Sierra Linda is currently undergoing temporary construction of a temporary dog park. And that I just wanted to bring it up because that was the initial idea of the neighborhood council, and we talked a little bit about what that might look like as far as dog parks goes, and we landed on a temporary pilot dog park to see how that might look. And they had a single day pop-up dog park a few weeks ago, and now this is the next iteration of that to see how it fits within the neighborhood and how the community utilizes it. And lastly, I want to thank the Neighborhood Council again, the Neighborhood Council Executive Board especially, for taking this on and for being willing to work together with neighbors to be part of the solution in keeping it clean, cleaning up after dogs, cleaning up trash, keeping it all very nice looking as part of the neighborhood. They've all committed to that. So thank you very much. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Perello.
Thank you. I also support Councilwoman Basu's move. My understanding was there is a contract compliance officer, but City Manager, can you address that? Apparently, I'm misunderstanding, or it's for some other part of construction in the area?
Yeah, yes, sir. What we have now is for public projects, and I think the concern here is contractors and subcontractors, broadly speaking, on private projects as well.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification, because I totally agree. I remember this coming up years ago now, that the people that were working need to be treated square deal. You get a square deal. And thank you for clearing it up in my mind. I thought we were covered. I didn't realize that we don't have a compliance officer in the private sector. I would also, Councilman Turan's right, I attended the vet thing with other council members here, and the airport authority, attended the Dunes Neighborhood Council meeting. Unfortunately, the flyer and the information on the website, I was in attendance along with 2 police officers and a member of the public, but the meeting was a Zoom meeting. It was changed at the last minute because of rain. We were able to get the information out. Some of the things that come up, as a councilman, I'm speaking of things that bother me. We have Thanksgiving coming up. That doesn't bother me. Has tremendous memories for me as a kid growing up. Grandparents, all that, the food was a big deal, but it was as a kid, and I'm sure a lot of you have things that you remember as a kid, or you have children yourself, and it's a big deal with your family, big deal. But there's a couple of wars going on, and it's in the news all the time. And I had a friend to talk to me, and I remember thinking about this years ago, way before I got on council. The news covers the wars when the people have a certain ethnicity, or lack of a better word, their skin tone is similar to the majority of the people in Europe or America. There's tremendous atrocities taking place in Africa right now. Mass murder, genocide, and it doesn't make the press. Those people deserve the same coverage. I don't control the press, but I want everyone to kind of remember them too, along with what the atrocities and the wrong that's going on, whatever your side on the Arab-Israeli or the Ukraine-Russian. I have my personal views. I'm not expressing that here. But there's a lot of people that are suffering, whether it's Europe, Asia, South America, Africa, things in North America. There are real problems in this world. The Near East, the Far East. The comment that the city manager had made, the potentially something on a federal deal to take care of this homeless thing, and I mentioned the New Deal, the Great Depression, there's going to need to be something done. Printing more money and throwing money at these projects is not fixing things. And the people that are homeless, they fall into various groups, as it was excellent pointed out. There are people that are looking for a place, and as Barbara Macri-Ortiz, a very prominent attorney, advocate for the homeless as long as I've known her. People deserve a roof on their head. But the other part of it is, who do you expect to pay for the roof on your head? And the people that are paying the bills are getting more and more going to, in my opinion, a very strong feeling that, wait a minute, nobody gave it to me. How am I going to give it to somebody else that's going to take away from me? We're all in the same boat. You cannot, in the 60s, I had a friend that was in the Peace Corps. He went to Thailand, but he spent a lot of time in India. And he talked about being in Delhi. And he talked about when people would die in the streets, people just stepped over them. That's not supposed to happen. There are things that we see in this country where I can walk in streets in this country, a person is laying on the street, and I hope they're not dead. I don't feel like tangling with them. There was an issue in Los Angeles this morning. The guy was walking his dogs. Somebody's laying in the street. He either contacted him or something. The person came up, took a swing, and the guy shot him 3 times. We do not need that stuff happening here. But society is changing, and it's not for the better. It's got to change. I'm not the fix. I am just one dumbass politician who got elected, and you expect me to fix it. I'll try. I'll do the best I can. I expect you to hold me accountable. But you got to hold a lot of people accountable, not just at this level. And I hope you can have a good Thanksgiving, but I hope you don't forget there are real serious problems in this world. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to thank 805, and all the laborers for their comments. And this is not just 805, it's all labor for that matter. And there's a lot of wage staff, because they don't pay what they're supposed to pay, those contractors, number one. They don't follow the OSHA rules many times. And I think we need to hire local help. Local help, it helps us. We talked about rents, how high they are. We talk about food, costs of sending our children to school. We need to keep wages here in Ventura County here and also here in Oxnard. And I think that'll help us with our taxes that we need to provide for police and for fire and for our streets and public works. So I support that, Councilwoman Basua, that we bring this back to at least get some clarity behind that. And of course, there's some rules that we need to follow and some rules that we don't, but at least we'll find out. But I want to thank you. I thank Labor for the good work that you guys are doing. Additionally, what I'd like to also thank our Oxnard Veterans Committee for the excellent work they did for November 11th to remember our veterans, our past veterans, our local veterans, and veterans that are being helping us right now to provide the service to keep our country safe, which I think is really, really important. Additionally, we're going into here a couple of days, it's going to be Thanksgiving. And there's a lot of people in the underserved communities that cannot afford a turkey, that cannot afford to be nice and cozy in their homes. So I want to thank Javier Gomez from In La Quech, and he had, and also quite a few other people here at Casa Lopez. They had a luncheon today for the underserved community. So I want to thank also our Councilmember Vini Lopez and also the Port of Oxnard Port of Hueneme District for sponsoring that luncheon, which I think was Vianney Lopez, yeah, I'm sorry. And also they provided a excellent lunch, for about 350 people or so. Also, I want to thank FoodShare. We talk about FoodShare today. And FoodShare had a turkey distribution over at College Park. 1,800 turkeys were handed out. And I also want to thank the Los Angeles Rams. Cooper Cup was here. And they brought quite a few people from the Rams, to actually pass out turkeys. And again, Supervisor Lopez was there. And of course, my assistant Martha Guillan was there with me too. And it was great to see also our fire chief, Alexander Hamilton, and our firefighters there passing out turkeys, which is really, really fantastic. So also as a mayor of Oxnard, I also want to invite you for some following events. The Oxnard Tree Lighting Celebration. It's a holiday holiday market, and that's going to happen on Thursday, November the 30th at 5 p.m. at Plaza Park. And my understanding is, Mr. City Manager, and you probably don't remember that this is probably the 74th tree lighting we're going to have here in the city of Oxnard. Do you remember that?
Unlike you, I haven't been here 200 years, so I don't know.
So anyway, that's going to happen at 5 o'clock. And the tree that we have there is probably one of the largest trees in Ventura County. It's 110 feet tall, so it's really, really great. And also on the 2nd of December, we're going to have our 16th annual Tamale Festival. If you like tamales, boy, they're going to be great that we're going to have here. And of course, we're going to have our Christmas parade starting at 10 a.m. And also, I want to thank or wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next item is item J. This is a review of the information consent item, and we have 4 items. Do we have any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, council members, we have 4 items, and any?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make some comments on item 4.
Okay, item number 4. Go ahead.
Last time when we talked about this at council meeting, I didn't support it. And I don't want people to think I'm an anti-environmentalist or anything like that, because I'm not. I believe that we are experiencing climate change. where we might have a difference of opinion is what is the root cause of that climate change and how do you deal with it? And this was brought to us due to a state mandated law or a state law that was put into place that mandates that local communities such as Oxnard either recycle disposable plastic forks or ban them or be fined for not doing that or fined for not recycling them. Well, all that comes at a cost that is not funded for us by the state of California. And it also puts us into a position of having to be the enforcement authority for this, which is also not funded by the state of California. So essentially, the state of California is telling us, we know how to run your city. Here's what you need to enact in the way of a local ordinance. Here's what you need to do to enforce it. And if you don't, we're going to fine you. I think that's the wrong approach. That puts the cart before the horse. I don't mind in looking at this and doing something with this. And I thought I would never say the words that I am the owner of a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. But I am, and I actually like the darn thing.
There goes the environment.
It's actually kind of exciting to drive a car that's more intelligent than the driver is, but I find this an interesting experience every time I go through it. So I do that. We recently installed solar on our home, which was interesting in terms of a project, but we've got that. So I'm participating in this because, like I said, I agree that climate change is here and it's real. What causes it, I don't know, but I know what I can do to try and help mitigate it as much as possible, and that's what we're doing. But I disagree with a group of legislators up in a particular area of this city or this state that say, we know how to run Oxnard, and here's what you need to do to make it a better city. My comment would be, God bless you. Move to Oxnard, get elected. You can help us make all these decisions right here in Oxnard. I'd be happy to participate. But you can't use a one-size-fits-all approach for every community in the state of California because we're all different, we're all individual. So because of that, I will not be supporting item 4, not that I don't believe in the true motive of what it wishes to do. I just don't agree with the process in the way in which it was implemented. So for that reason, I won't support item number 4.
Okay, Councilman Duran.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to just have some quick discussion on items L3 and L4, and I'll take 4 first just to kind of round out my comments in addition to Mayor Pro Tem's. I just want to remind folks that, as the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, this is a state mandate that is coming down that the city of Oxnard must do, and as he mentioned as well, this is something we should be doing. But I also want to just reiterate part of the conversation from last time that there's been a lot of comments, and I see on next council meeting's agenda, there's going to be discussion around the kind of pop-up food vendors that we see around the city. And I'm hoping that as this comes into implementation, that folks will remember that all of our food establishments, our food, trying to remember the phrasing that was used last time, food facilities, is that right?
Brick and mortar.
I got a head nod, yes. Food facilities, which includes food trucks and includes brick and mortar restaurants, but also includes events where they're making food and handing it out to people. It would include like rescue mission type facilities where they're making food plates and giving it to folks, but it would also include these pop-up vendors. And I have to imagine if they are not willing to, if they're from out of the area, they're not willing to get permits, they're likely not willing to adhere to our styrofoam containers ban, nor this plastic foodware ban. And I hope folks know that, or recognize as members of the public and as consumers, you can vote with your wallet. If they're not willing to even acknowledge the bare minimum of what we're trying to do for our community and our environment and in our beachside community, I hope folks will take that into consideration when they decide where they're going to patronize to get food. Because I assure you, there are plenty of locally owned restaurants owned by people you probably went to high school with or are related to or live next to, and folks who own food trucks and other establishments who live here who will follow these rules. And I hope you'll remember that when you decide where you're going to get your food. So those are my comments on L4. I do have a question on L3 for the fire department.
Item number 3.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead in 3.
Thank you. And I see the chief is making his way up to the podium. Just a quick thing, Chief. I know that this is something that went to the Measure O Oversight Committee as I think it's matching funds for grants initially, right? And I'm just hoping that you wouldn't mind taking a second to explain for folks so they understand the switch here of us having to reappropriate $102,000 towards an air compressor for Station 1.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were allocated, I believe it was about $157,000 in matching funds had we been successful in all the grants that we had applied for. One of those grant applications was to replace this air fill station or air compressor. Ultimately, we weren't successful in that grant or a number of others, which left this balance in that Measure O fund. And so the item before you tonight is to be able to appropriate those remaining grant matching funds towards replacing this critical piece of equipment.
Okay, thank you. And just understanding the mechanics of that and what we're doing here is important. Thank you for explaining that. Just in just a minute or less, can you tell us a little bit about what this air compressor does?
Yeah, so a lot of people say that we have a misconception that we wear oxygen tanks on our back when we fight fire. The air tanks we use, it's actually just regular air that's compressed into a tank. We have to make sure that obviously the air that's going into those bottles is clean and uncontaminated for obvious reasons. And so this piece of equipment is what we use to fill those bottles at the end of each fire, each time they're used. So it is a key piece of equipment. It does take a fair amount of time after a fire to fill those bottles, because what ends up happening is as you fill and compress air, the bottle gets warm. When it cools down, it actually has less pressure in it than it needs to be, so we often have to take them out, refill them a little bit more to make sure that we've got the maximum amount of air for our folks to use in a fire. So some of the components that have been hard to replace, some of them are really basic sort of washers and nuts and screws and things, but some of the componentry in ensuring that it's clean air going in the bottle is where we're struggling to find parts, which is why this compressor really needs to be replaced.
Okay, thank you very much. Very much appreciate the explanation on that. Those are my questions, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before the chief sits down.
Go ahead.
It's very rare to see him with a mustache.
Is that for Thanksgiving?
My wife and I have been married 38 years. We've been together 40 years. She's never seen me without a mustache. She would probably divorce me if I got it. But would you explain the thing behind the Movember stash?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to it. Since I've been fire chief, every year we have put a focus on Movember. Movember was originally established as a prostate cancer awareness program. It has since become sort of more broadly men's health issues in general. So not only do we spend a month growing goofy mustaches, but we also raise money for either firefighters or families that are in need. This year, and the other thing that we do internally is always provide an education piece for our personnel. And so this year we're focused on healthy sleep. And so everyone's going through some training about getting better sleep. Shift workers in particular are at high risk for a range of different issues because their sleep quality is just not great. So that's this year's focus, which, as you can appreciate, my firefighters are very happy to hear that we're focused on sleep this month.
Thank you, and I won't say anything else because I know we're a little off agenda, and I don't want the city attorney to get mad at me for ad-libbing.
Steve is scratching his head already.
Yes, I could see the eyes coming at me.
Councilor Perello, what number?
Just a question on the compressor.
Number 4? Number 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
3 and
3.
4.
Okay.
Is this compressor going to be used for all of the stations, or will this be a compressor that is only used at one station?
So this compressor will be housed at Fire Station 1, and so it primarily fills, we have a cache of 36 bottles on each of the ladder trucks. That's why each Station 1 and Station 8 each have one of these compressors, and then each one of the engines also has four air packs on them and then 4 spare bottles. So the other stations will come in once a week if any of their air tanks are a little bit low on air and fill them up, but it's primarily for those ladder trucks that carry the majority of those air bottles.
Okay, and this compressor was, I believe it's 20 years old. Is the other compressor, what's the age on the other compressor?
No, the other compressor was, it came with Fire Station 8, so it was purchased in 2015.
Okay. Was there any concerns at the Measure Row committee of using these funds for this?
No, there were some clarifying questions, but no concerns that I'm aware of.
Thank you very much on that. Thank you. Yeah. And I also want to say, I forgot to mention it, you and the county firefighters are going to be involved in the holiday food gathering at the harbor. And the date I think is the 5th, I think, but I'm not sure. And if you know, please.
Testing my memories. Might be the 9th. Testing my memory as well. I'm sorry.
And it's a very, very good deed, and you guys do a heck of a lot, and you collect a lot of food. And you distribute it for residents in Oxnard. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The other question I have.
What number?
And now I don't see it. Jeez, the other question I have is the single-use plastic fork. I totally agree with Councilmember McDonald, 100%, but I vote to support this because they could have us in a financial penalty. And if it wasn't that they had us by the you-know-what, I would be voting no. But this is an issue that they can potentially fine us. And I'll use a couple of examples. There are individuals that get elected, and back and forth, elections matter. We have the barbecue pits that are on sidewalks. 2 state legislators approved that. We'd be challenging that. We have requirements to recycle this stuff. Nobody takes the forks. People want to beat their chest and talk about how great they are for the environment, and they don't look past the end of their nose, in my opinion, on a lot of these things. But for us to be potentially penalized, money that could be used for other things, I will support this. But I agree with Councilmember McDonald. When the state crams something down your throat, says fix it, and we're not going to help you to pay for it, and it's something totally out of our ball game, it's wrong. But you get what you vote for. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have items 1 through 4. We need a motion.
I will make.
A motion? But he's going to vote right now. He'll vote accordingly.
Make any motion you'd like.
Yeah, and I'll second it.
I will move the recommended action.
And I'll second it. And please, Madam Clerk, please read the votes, and then we have Valenzuela up there too. Yeah. You want to share, Councilmember Valenzuela, any additional comments?
No additional comments.
Thank you. But let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Are we going to do the roll call for all the items, L1 to L4 together?
Yeah, just.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. We have.
Because we have.
I'll separate my vote out when you get to me.
Let's go individually, and then we can.
It'll work, you'll see.
Okay.
Let's go.
Councilmember Turan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Basua?
Aye.
Councilmember Valenzuela Zavala?
Aye.
Councilmember Perello?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald?
Yes on 1, 2, and 3, no on 4.
Thank you. Mayor Zaragoza?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next item is item M1, reports. This is Community Development Department. Subjects is Commercial Cannabis Financial Auditing Services Agreement with Venue Insights and also Analytical LLC. Recommendation of the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute a 3-year agreement with options for 2 1-year extensions. Agreement number 3240018 with Venue Insights Analytics LLC. Venue in the amount not to exceed $507,000 for commercial cannabis financial auditing service. And also, I'd like to assure that the Finance and Governance Committee approved 2-0 with Councilmember Basua absent on October 24, 2013 to approve the staff's recommendation and to forward here to the City Council. And council members? Nope, any questions? No, go ahead, Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. And will we have Miss Mallory for this one? Okay.
Mallory?
And so thank you for this. And for anyone who's watching who didn't get to see the Finance and Governance Committee, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind just briefly explaining the item in front of us, and then I just have a couple quick follow-up questions.
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Turan, thank you. I also wanted to mention that we do have a representative from Avenue, our suggested consultant. They are on the line if there's any specific questions. This is an implementing action from the council-approved cannabis ordinance. The ordinance requires that on an annual basis, cannabis businesses submit a CPA-prepared audit for review and approval by the city. In working with the finance department, the finance staff do not have the sufficient capacity to or credentials to verify the revenues and the annual financial statements that are submitted to the city. Currently, we receive revenues on a quarterly basis, so this is a compilation of the whole year's annual revenues for the business. And this would be for all cannabis businesses that are currently, or uses, excuse me, that are currently in our ordinance. As you know, council approved cultivation, indoor cultivation, and that this auditing services does not include that. We would need to have that added if and when that action occurs.
Thank you. And I'm hoping that just a couple quick follow-ups, just so it's clear for folks. Is this a pretty standard practice that's done throughout the state for the cannabis industry?
Councilmember Turan and Mayor, yes, this is a standard protocol to have revenues audited, correct?
Okay. And this is something that was placed in the conditions or made known ahead of time to the cannabis applicants that this is something that we would be doing in the future. Is that correct?
Correct, Councilmember.
Thank you. And they all agreed to that?
Exactly, yes. A condition of approval was placed on all the permits and the applicants all agreed to those conditions.
Okay, thank you. And I only asked those questions and just clarify for the public, just as we did at Finance and Governance, because my initial reaction to seeing this candidly was, oh, I don't know about this. You know, we're going to add another tax onto them. There's a lot of kind of volatility in the market right now across the state. And I thought it was an extra thing we were adding. But when I heard those explanations of, well, no, this, you know, dates far back to the conditions and the application process, and this is front loaded to all of the applicants, and that's a standard practice throughout the industry, I felt a lot more comfortable with it. And I just hope the public knows this is not the city's attempt to add some other fee or some other revenue stream from the cannabis industry. This is something that is not unique to Oxnard and happening all throughout the state, and could also ensure that through the auditing that we're being as accurate, or they're being completely accurate in what they're doing, and they may catch things they didn't intend to, have send forward incorrectly. And so I think there's a win-win in this, depending on how you look on it for folks. So thank you again for that information, Ms. Mallory.
Kathleen, before I go to Councilman Perello, I know that one of the things that was shared too is that the vendor pays for the CPA, correct?
Yes, yes, the vendor does.
The vendor does, and also number one is as part of the the permit renewal process.
That's correct, Mayor.
And when they sign up, you know, that contract states all those items that they have to have the CPA, they have to report it and so forth, which I think is part of the whole process. I know last time that we had it, there was concerns about the fees and so forth, but when they signed the contract, they knew what they were signing.
Correct, Mayor. And this is actually an action of the council-approved compliance fee study as well, which was approved in July.
Thank you. Councilman Perello?
Thank you. I appreciate the report, and I do appreciate that it's going to be auditing. We have a recent thing where we found that our finance department found that Amazon owed us $500,000, and that was because we checked it out. my question for this, and I'd hoped that I would have seen it in the staff report. But again, on some of these staff reports, and I've had complaints from the public, when they click on the staff report, they can get the Measure M, but they can't get the body of the staff report on the internet. That's got to be addressed. But my question is, in the past, I've always asked, because I want everything above board. And with the news in the major newspapers, it's the LA Times, talking about issues and people have taken things from pot dispensers and various bad things, I want above board. It said that staff reviewed the people that were going to do the auditing. And usually in the past, when I have asked, and I didn't ask specifically this time, but identify the departments or the people that work for the city of Oxnard that pick the auditors that will be there. I think it helps and it leaves a better taste in my mouth, and I think it would be beneficial to the community. If you know who that was, I'd appreciate sharing, and if not, in the future, I hope we don't drop the ball on that. Thank you.
Councilman Perrello, yes, it was a member of the, senior level member of the finance department, as well as our cannabis project manager and also myself.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Does Venue, do you want to say,
Our consultant, Chris Willis with Avenue, is on the line if you have
Oh,
any
he's on the line,
questions.
okay.
And just, again, this is Matthew Simpkins.
Yeah.
He's the cannabis project manager.
I know, I'm sorry, but I know, do you have anything else to share? Okay, thank you. We need.
Thank you for your Measure M presentation.
Any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, so we need a motion.
I'll move the recommended action.
Moved by Perrello. Second by Basua. Okay, Madam Clerk, vote.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Basua,
Aye.
Councilmember Valenzuela Zavala,
Aye.
Councilmember Perrello,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Aye.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Our last item is item number M2 is his Community Development Department. This is a revision to the Planning Commission Rules and Procedures bylaws. Recommendation the City Council approve a resolution adopting the proposed revisions to the Planning Commission Rules and Procedures bylaws with staff recommending changes. The Finance and Governance Committee again approved this item 2-0, with Councilmember Basua absent on October 24, 2013 to approve the staff recommendation and forward to our City Council. And again, this is a per-record item per Measure M, and we do have Mr. Pearson, Joe Pearson, for any questions? Councilmember Perrello?
Yes, I appreciate the work that has gone into this, and I appreciate the intent and back of it, but I have a couple of questions. And I would like to say this first off. Since I've been on this council and learning, having to review different things that the Planning Commission has done, I find it wrong that our Planning Commission is not financially compensated for serving on that commission. I'm not talking big money, but they don't even get coffee or gas money. That should change. The issue with the Brown Act and the Roberts Rules of Order, we're fortunate to have a parliamentarian. I understand he's registered, licensed, that happens to be the chair of the Planning Commission. But when we don't, who does the responsibility of calling the shots about if we're in line or not in line, who does that fall to? The second question is with respect to, and I did appreciate the presentation, but with respect to removing a member from the Planning Commission, I'd like to get some clarity on that.
Joe, go ahead.
Yep. Yes. So, Councilmember Perrello, as it relates to the question regarding the Roberts Rules of Order, that would fall to whoever the chair is at that time, as well as staff and the city attorney's office, which are there at each of the meetings. So, myself as the secretary to the Planning Commission, Mr. Roselle, who's the legal representative at the Planning Commission, and whoever the chair would be there to ensure that we comply with those rules.
On the next one, with respect to removing someone from the Planning Commission, the Planning Commissioners themselves and the Planning Commissioners themselves appointing somebody to the Planning Commission. That was discussed, may not come, but it was discussed. I'd like the public to hear the discussion before we act on that matter.
Probably the city attorney can probably help us out with that.
So just for clarification, council member, which
There's
specific rule are you referring to? Are you referring to Rule 8A9?
I'd have to pull the video up, Measure M, because
It's
this thing is
in
not-
the report.
Okay, because 8A9 talks about the removal of an elected officer. So once, I think there's a distinction certainly between removing somebody from the planning commission versus removing them from an elected officer role on the planning commission.
Okay, will the elected officers on the planning commission be the chair and the vice chair? So those are the only two that could be removed? Does it limit removing them simply from those positions or in total from the planning commission? I didn't find that clear.
So, Councilman Perrello, the intent is to remove them from just those positions.
Oh.
So they'd be removed from the chair of the planning commission, not from the planning commission itself.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, and just for clarification, the planning commissioners are put in place by the council
Appointed.
vote.
Yeah, right.
And as far as replacing someone who's removed, it would just be a simple, the same method that the chair and vice chair are normally elected? It would open up for nominations from the body, and they would have a public vote?
Yeah, so Councilman Perrello, yes, they would be put in those positions in the same manner that they are when they're elected at the beginning of each calendar year.
You've answered all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And okay, no additional comments, and I think asking for a motion.
Excuse me,
Any public speakers? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, the chair, my goodness.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Zaragoza and City Council members. My name is Ronald Orejo. Just to reiterate that this is not public comment, it's technically part of the agenda item. So I'm currently the chair of the Planning Commission and will be speaking to you in my capacity as the previous chair of the Bylaw Subcommittee and current Planning Commission member as included in the motion that eventually brought this item before you tonight. If you could, thank you very much. First off, I want to thank then Planning Commission Chair Daniel Chavez Jr. for appointing me as the subcommittee's chair, along with himself and Commissioner Catherine Conley onto the Planning Commission's Bylaws Subcommittee. Also, thanks to former Planning and Environmental Services Manager Scott Kolwitz, then Commission Secretary Dee Lai, who have you also before you today, and Attorney Ken Roselle, and again, through this most recent action, in addition to current manager Joe Pearson and Director Jeff Pegley. As you saw from both the agenda packet and previously posted presentation, there were numerous meetings and a multitude of changes, both minor and substantive. The committee was extremely in-depth in analyzing and formulating the best processes going forward, with a mixture of more experienced and new commissioners, along with different topic areas in which we were more in tune with utilizing parliamentary procedure. Daniel Chavez with governmental, Catherine Conley with the private sector, and myself with nonprofit and educational. We believe that the subcommittee and full commission got this correct. Again, representing the Planning Commission, we agree with and appreciate the vast majority of staff's recommendations, both technical and substantial in nature. We request that the City Council accept all the staff's recommendations except for part of the change proposed under Rule 7B1, removing the words and phrases from quote, with the below specifications, end quote, to subpart 2, quote, between 3 days prior to the meeting at 5 p.m., 1 page maximum, including exhibits, end quote, so that Rule 7B1 would read as follows at the right side of the PowerPoint slide before you today. With staff's recommendation, striking out shall and substituting that with is requested to should allay any concerns regarding potential conflicts with the Brown Act, as it is no longer a mandate or directive, and thus is now transformed into a guideline of best practice. While the Planning Commission will inform itself with all the material that is presented for its consideration, we believe that giving the public a more realistic understanding of what can reasonably expect to comprehend at such short notice will be better for all concerned. We respectfully request that staff's recommendation regarding the Planning Commission bylaws be amended to remove the proposed deletion in Rule 7B1, as noted on the right side of your PowerPoint slide. We deeply thank all who have been involved with this comprehensive overhaul of the Planning Commission bylaws, and I'll stand by if you have any questions on this in particular or the bylaws in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilman Perrello, then Turan.
Mr. Mayor, with respect to what you want changed, if we can put that slide back up, if we are to go along with the requirements of this, the information has to be provided 3 days in advance. What happens when somebody comes up with a sheet of information pertinent the night of the meeting? Will it be refused?
Yes, Councilman Perrello, as I stated, it's not a mandate now, and so we can still expect it, but I think it's just best practice to let them know what we might reasonably be able to consume. And so even though we set that as a guideline, setting it in the bylaws makes it a little bit more incumbent and direct to the public that this is our preference, and if you follow our preferences, then it will more or less likely be able to be utilized by us during the meeting. Okay. And that was our intent, and yeah, thank you very much, Councilman.
Well, I believe that that's a good idea, because I have watched previous board members on the Planning Commission refuse to take stuff at the last minute, and sitting on other boards, when somebody comes up and even here, and they give us 6 pages and they want us to, basically read it. I'm not a speed reader, let alone understanding 6 pages, being able to go back and regurgitate it so I can understand what they're putting in here to impact my vote. I would believe that, in my view, it would be better if something pertinent comes like that, table the item till it comes back another time, and ask the person that's giving it, do they believe that's in the best interest of the item being discussed? That's just a thought.
Thank you.
And I want to, there was a hot meeting at the Planning Commission for a jacuzzi on the 2nd story. I saw that, and I was it was eye-opening. I think the Planning Commission handled themselves pretty good, and I'm also grateful that I was not serving on any body that night. Thank you.
Thank you, Main Council
Thanks for your
Perrello.
service.
Thank you.
And I appreciate my fellow members of the Planning Commission in regards to processing that agenda item. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Before I go to Councilman, thank you, Councilman Troy. Joe, there were some changes that we made, staff recommendations for the Finance and Governance Committee. That's included in the current, remember there were some changes that staff recommended at the time? And were those changes included that we approved on that we recommended to the City Council?
To Mayor Zaragoza, the changes that staff is recommending are the changes
Okay.
that are currently contained
Okay.
in the report.
Thank you. Councilman Turan.
Thank you. And I do want to throw out to folks, anyone who regularly watches the city council meetings, I invite you to watch the other CAGs, the citizen advisory groups, including the Planning Commission, because a lot of important city business that happens. But Councilmember Perrello brought up a really good example of the evening where there was a very important topic around the placement of a jacuzzi. And I only bring it up because you can watch all the Netflix you want, but this is real life drama sometimes that you're going to see. And I mean, I'll just sit there with my popcorn and watch the Planning Commission meetings sometimes. But I saw that one too, and that was a really contentious topic, and I thank our commissioners for taking that on. Regarding Chair Arwejo's requests that were brought forward, I recall from Finance and Governance, part of the conversation with Mr. Rozelle was around the limiting of speech. And I'm wondering if the request that the chair has made in not making this a mandate, removing the word shall and having request that included in the language, followed by a minimum font size, a maximum number of pages, a soft deadline to get those in by. does that still get us into the territory of potentially limiting speech, or does it feel a little bit more comfortable for the city attorney's office when we look at that?
Council members, certainly our primary concern was the mandate aspect of that, and with the mandate removed and it being more of a guideline, as the Planning Commission chair phrased it, we are more comfortable with that. And just to state that what we have here is a balancing of expectations, the right of commenters to submit substantive comments. However, to the Planning Commission chair's point in drafting it as it was drafted, there's also a fairness issue to applicants, and somebody dropping a voluminous document on the commission the moments before the hearing or afternoon of the hearing, that is not fair to that applicant. The applicant is in a process, notices are given a certain time in advance of meetings, and the public is expected to respond to those notices accordingly and not bring voluminous documents to the hearing. And as far as the Brown Act is concerned, the Brown Act does provide for legislative bodies to set reasonable restrictions on public comments. And typically that's in-person comment at the podium with time limits, but I think the same logic applies to written comments.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that that thought and the insight into that. And you know, I agree with what was stated by Councilor Perello. It's something that you would want to avoid or to mitigate as much as possible. At the 11th hour, somebody dropping 25 pages on the Planning Commission when they've already reviewed these hundreds of pages leading up to the meeting. And based on what the city attorney just said, I feel what was proposed or requested by Chair Arwejo does sound reasonable to me. And it's not a hard, you have to have it 5 pages, you have to have it by 3 p.m. If somebody brings in 7 pages 2 days before the meeting, I think that's still, no one's going to get turned away, it sounds like. It's just a request that, can we get these things in, and this would make it easier for folks to digest it and put some very intentional thought into it if it were to meet these requested guidelines. With that, I would, in that case, I would be willing to entertain having the Chair Arwejo's modifications placed back in there, knowing that it's not a mandate, it is a request, and folks can operate along those guidelines or they can go beyond them if they need to. So that's going to be, I'm going to go ahead and move the recommended action, requesting that we have that modification from Chair Arwejo baked in there.
Joe and Jeff, are we okay with those recommendations?
Mayor Zaragoza and council, yes, staff would be okay with those changes as long as the shall is removed and it is a recommendation.
The city attorney, are we okay with those recommendations?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question, but I will second Mr. Troy.
We'll second, and also we have Mayor Pro Tem Matsu.
That's right, everybody's just ignoring me.
No, but you were next. You're next. You're next. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that at this body, we accept people when they come to the dais and provide comments to be handed out to all council members. We do that on a regular basis. All the other committees I sit on, the ones I chair, we allow those same type of comments to come in should they want to be presented. The presenter needs to understand, and most of the other committees I sit on, we explain to them that because this is being given to us at the last minute, it may not carry the weight you would hoped for because we haven't had the time to really process it, and we're going to make a decision now. So I don't see a particular problem with this requested change. I think it's a good change, and I think it opens the door for dialogue, but people need to understand that just because they think they presented a viable argument for or against something at the very last moment, that it may or may not have the impact that they're hoping for. and the commission or whatever reviewing body is gonna make the appropriate decision based on the information they have at hand. So,
Okay, thank you. Council Perrello?
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, extremely well put. My question of staff, if somebody comes in with a document, say 1 day or 2 days before the meeting, how do we make sure that it gets to all the 7 or 9 planning commissioners? I think it's 7.
Yes, so there's a total of 7. Right now, we currently have 6. Since Commissioner Chavez stepped down. So when we receive comments, we do distribute those via email to all of the commissioners. We also post them on the website as an attachment to the agenda.
So that if somebody came in and they didn't have the number of copies, you simply email the copy, photograph and email it, or do you deliver the copies to the individual planning commissioners?
So if it's, are you referring to at the actual meeting or prior to the meeting?
Prior to the meeting.
So if it's prior to the meeting, we will make the copies, we'll email them out if there's enough time, but if it's, less than an hour or so before the meeting, then we will print enough copies and distribute them at the dais, and then we'll have copies available for members of the public as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm sure there's other members of the public wondered how that works, so thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll second this.
A second, okay, and.
Chair,
Any additional
Mayor,
speakers?
no, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
And Chairman Araujo, thank you for your input. And Councilman Valenzuela, do you have any questions before we vote? None at all? Okay, so we got a first by Turan, second by Perrello. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Turan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Basua?
Aye.
Councilmember Valenzuela Zavala?
Aye.
Councilmember Perrello?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald?
aye.
Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That's our last item, and we are adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.